Cleopatra the Seventh, a queen, a polyglot, a legend. She was the most powerful woman of the ancient world. She fought for her country and her throne with high intelligence. The story begins in the city of Alexandria, in 69 BC. This was the center of the world, famous for its great library. Many people think Cleopatra was Egyptian, but she was actually Greek. She was a descendant of Ptolemy, a famous general of Alexander the Great. Her family ruled Egypt for 300 years as foreigners. Young Cleopatra was very different from her brothers and sisters. She was the first person in her family to learn the Egyptian language. She wanted to understand the hearts and the traditions of her people. She believed that a true leader must speak the language of the citizens. She prepared herself to be a true goddess since her childhood. Cleopatra was not just a royal child. She was a brilliant genius. She spent many hours in the great library studying the world. She studied mathematics, philosophy, science, and international law. She was a polyglot, capable of speaking more than 9 languages fluently. She understood that knowledge was her most important and powerful tool. She studied the stars and the secrets of ancient medicine. Cleopatra knew how to use words to persuade the most powerful men. She was a master of diplomacy and strategic thinking. This is a great lesson for us. Education is the key to true power. She spent her youth preparing for a dangerous world of politics. When her father died, Cleopatra became queen at 18 years old. But her younger brother, Ptolemy, wanted to rule the country alone. He started a civil war and forced Cleopatra to leave the city. She was alone in the desert, but she did not give up her crown. In the silence of the dunes, she gathered an army of loyal soldiers. She was waiting for the perfect moment to return to Alexandria. She looked at the stars and planned her move with patience. She knew that her destiny was to be the only queen of the Nile. A great leader never surrenders, even in the middle of a storm. At that time, the great Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt. He was the most powerful man in Rome and a master of war strategy. Cleopatra knew she needed Caesar as a strong and loyal ally. But the palace was surrounded by her brother's dangerous soldiers. She created a secret plan to enter the palace without being seen. Legend says she hid inside a large decorative carpet or a laundry bag. Her servant carried the carpet directly into Caesar's private room. When the carpet opened, the young queen appeared before him. Caesar was shocked by her courage and her extremely sharp mind. In that moment, a powerful alliance was born to change history. They talked for the whole night about the future of the world. After the great victory in the Civil War, a new era began for the land of the pharaohs. With the help of the powerful Roman legions, Cleopatra defeated the army of her brother. She secured her place on the Golden Throne. To celebrate their power and romantic alliance, she invited Caesar on a magnificent journey. They traveled on a massive, luxurious royal barge, sailing slowly across the ancient waters of the Nile. Cleopatra wanted to show Caesar her vast kingdom. She wanted him to see the devotion of her people. Thousands of Egyptians gathered on the riverbanks. They believed she was the living goddess, Isis. The union between Rome and Egypt produced a child. It was a boy named Caesarion, or Little Caesar. Cleopatra had a grand and ambitious vision. She wanted her son to inherit the glory of Egypt. She also wanted him to have the power of Rome. She traveled to Rome with a spectacular parade. The citizens of the city were in total shock. They had never seen such exotic luxury before. Cleopatra lived in the private villa of Julius Caesar, but her presence created tension in the Roman Senate. The senators feared her great influence over their leader. In the year 44 BC, a dark event changed history. Julius Caesar was assassinated in the Roman Senate. He was killed by a group of his own friends. With the death of her protector, Cleopatra was in danger. The chaotic streets of Rome were now very unsafe. She understood that the world had transformed. The political landscape was now a battlefield. She escaped from Rome and returned to Alexandria. She had to protect her son and her royal crown. She stood on her balcony, watching the deep blue sea. The Roman Empire was now divided among generals. A new and violent civil war was finally inevitable. Cleopatra knew that Egypt needed a new Roman ally. She reorganized her navy and waited for the right man. Antony was the most charismatic Roman general. He invited Cleopatra to a meeting in the city of Tarsus. Cleopatra knew that the first impression was vital. She prepared a grand spectacle of beauty and wealth. She arrived on a ship with a brilliant golden hull. The ship had purple silk sails and silver oars. The air was filled with the perfume of exotic flowers. When Antony saw the queen, he was captivated. He fell in love with her charisma and divine beauty. What started as politics became a legendary love story. They spent many years together in the city of Alexandria. They created a life of unimaginable luxury and art. Together, they dreamed of a new and global empire. In Rome, young Octavian was watching the lovers. He used propaganda to destroy Cleopatra's reputation. He called her a witch who corrupted a Roman hero. He convinced the Senate that she was a direct threat. In 32 BC, Rome declared war on the Queen of the Nile. The fate of the world was decided in the Sea of Greece. This was the monumental and violent Battle of Actium. Hundreds of ships fought for control of the Mediterranean. Antony and Cleopatra struggled against a superior strategy. Cleopatra saw her fleet breaking and made a decision. She turned her royal galleys and sailed away from battle. In desperation, Antony followed the woman he loved. Their dream of an empire was sinking in the cold water. Octavian's army eventually reached the gates of Alexandria. Antony believed Cleopatra was dead and took his life. He died in the arms of the queen in her royal monument. Cleopatra was a prisoner, but she chose her own destiny. She refused to be a slave in the streets of Rome. She dressed in her most sacred and royal pharaonic robes. A servant brought a basket of fresh and sweet figs. Hidden deep inside the basket was a deadly cobra. The bite of the asp was a passage to divinity. She allowed the snake to bite her arm with courage. She ended her life before the Roman soldiers arrived. The guards found her lying peacefully on her golden throne. She died as she lived, as a sovereign and a legend. With her death, the era of the pharaohs finally ended. Egypt became a province of the massive Roman Empire. However, her story survived the destruction of time. The mystery of Cleopatra's final moments still haunts history. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, subscribe for more historical stories and mysteries. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.